Hello, I am your host, Tracy. Thank you so much for joining me here for another episode of ADHD for Smartass Women. You know, it's taken me some time to process this election. I didn't know how to genuinely talk about how I was feeling, how I suspected many of you were feeling, knowing our extreme empathy, our justice sensitivity, and the fact that we're the kind of people that are always searching for meaning and purpose. But once I got my bearings, what I knew for sure was this: there was no way in hell that I was going to be taken down into the sewer. Given my propensity to look for joy, light, humor, and kindness, and that I was literally born a feminist, as a child, I remember constantly questioning why my dad and my friends' dads, they often sat on their rear ends while all the wives literally did everything. And if you've listened to my podcast even a couple of times, I also don't think it's hard to figure out what side I come down on. I always ask, and I've always asked, what would Jesus do? I think he'd clothe and feed the hungry, the poor, the downtrodden, the marginalized. Always. And I will never feel differently. I also believe that this isn't pie, right? There's always enough to go around, and then some. However, if all you do is focus on what isn't working, what's broken, everything you don't have, or how much this person gets or has versus how much you get or have, you are always going to find more evidence of the imbalance and the brokenness. But if you focus on what's working, what's moving in your favor, you're going to see more of everything that's working. And you're also going to see more people that are good, kind, and decent. And that's how I choose to live my life. I also live by the quote, "To whom much is given, much is expected." I thought, this is embarrassing actually, I thought that quote was from someone like Maya Angelou. And so I looked it up. I was raised Catholic, and I raised my kids Catholic. And what I discovered is, lo and behold, it's actually in the Gospel of Luke 12:48. Again, what would Jesus do? And so I don't understand how we can preach the importance of reading the Bible, yet ignore its most essential teachings. Now, you may be listening right now, and you may not agree with me. Stick with me anyway, because I really think you're going to get something out of this podcast too. My goal here is when you walk away from this podcast, you feel better. You feel optimistic, and my favorite word, hopeful about life and your place in it. So let's go, okay? We have literally spent decades fearing George Orwell's 1984. Orwell published his dystopian novel in 1949, and it was all about society. And a society where government controls everything. Surveillance, propaganda, total power. It was basically a warning about what happens when authoritarianism takes over and people lose their personal freedoms. This looked like a future where books are banned, right? Ideas were silenced, and knowledge is just locked away. It's only for certain people. But I think the reality that we're living in right now is actually worse. Forget banned books. Who even cares about them? No one's even reading books. Instead, what we're doing is we're drowning in a relentless flood of noise. Tweets, memes, clickbait, and breaking news. So this isn't censorship by force, it's literally censorship by distraction. So what happens is truths and important ideas, they don't just disappear. No. They get buried under piles of meaningless junk, completely lost in the noise. And can you really blame people for feeling so lost and afraid? We are literally living through a second industrial revolution where technology and AI are reshaping how we live and work, leaving many of us feeling displaced or even replaceable. And at the same time, we're in a second renaissance. Some people think it's a fourth. We have more access to knowledge than ever before, and it sounds really incredible if it wasn't so overwhelming. New ideas and challenges, they are literally hitting us at lightning speed, creating this chaos cocktail that leaves people disconnected and unsure of where they fit. For some, the temptation is, let's just burn it all down, right? That's the solution. Our systems, our institutions, everything. That'll make us feel like we're in control. And whereas that might seem cathartic in the moment, let's be real. What replaces what you're burning down? More dysfunction? More chaos? What I believe we are really in the middle of is a meaning crisis. I mean, people are stuck on autopilot. They're disconnected from themselves, they're disconnected from nature, they're disconnected from their purpose and each other, and they're often trapped in careers that don't align with who they are. Thank you, school system, right? Which hasn't changed in 150 years. And social structures, and our parents who just wanted us to be happy, but really didn't know how they would actually help us achieve that. So many of us are either at work or on weekends, we are literally dreading going back to work. There's hump day, there's working for the weekend, there's TGIF. I don't know if this restaurant is nationwide, but there's actually even a restaurant created around this theme of thank God it's Friday. Our brains are literally in a cycle of survival that leaves no room for curiosity or creativity. The very things that our ADHD brains need to make life meaningful. And this isn't just about work. It's about a system that keeps us disconnected from ourselves, each other, and what truly matters. It feels like we're running on a treadmill, and no matter how fast we run, we never actually get anywhere. Now, ADHD brains, like I get it, right? We might rebel against the idea of structure. You know, the attitude is, for me, initially, when we're talking structure is, boring. But chaos is actually where we really struggle. All brains hate chaos, but ADHD brains, we literally will shut down in the middle of chaos. And here's the science. Again, all brains can only handle so much before they max out. But for ADHD brains, the constant distractions and decisions of a chaotic world send our cognitive load into overdrive. It's like trying to juggle flaming torches while walking a tightrope. You're just going to drop something, right? And that is why order is so critical to our brains. It lowers the load and it gives us some room to breathe. People often think control is the answer to chaos. And that's why some look to authoritarian leaders, right? I will fix everything. I alone can do this, right? But they don't solve the underlying chaos. They just replace it with control. And control is especially difficult for ADHD brains that need freedom to thrive. Control isn't just unhelpful to us, it's suffocating. Control crushes creativity, curiosity, and autonomy, the very things that we need to survive and thrive. What we actually need isn't rigid control, but real order. When we have just enough order to focus, something magical happens. We call it flow or hyperfocus. That state, where you lose track of time and all the distractions fade and you're completely absorbed in what you're working on right in that minute. ADHD brains, well, we're wired for this. It's where we thrive. But flow and hyperfocus only happens when the conditions are right, when there's clarity, challenge, and freedom to engage deeply. Again, we have to be really interested, right? Order isn't about locking yourself into one way of doing things. It's about clearing space for what matters to you individually. That's actually what provides the direction. So one of the best ways to create this order is through micro goals, right? We take big tasks and we break them down into smaller, manageable pieces, which reduces the overwhelm and it builds momentum for us so we can keep going and moving forward. Think of it like stepping stones, right? Instead of in a river. So instead of just leaping over the river, no, you're jumping from one stepping stone to another. Each step gets you closer to where you want to be. On top of this, ADHD brains aren't just wired for clarity and creativity. We are also wired for connection. Our heightened empathy means that when we calm the chaos in our lives, we can help others do the same in their life. That's how we create meaning, not just for ourselves, but for the world around us generally at large. Now, let's get back to where we are in our world right now. When faced with this much change, people naturally are going to want to go back to what feels safe, to what they know. They're trying to cling to the past, reverse change, and put the brakes on progress because the unknown feels so uncomfortable, so unsafe. So they look for someone to swoop in and restore order. But we already know that doesn't work because our creative, often fearless ADHD brains understand something fundamental. Change isn't just inevitable. It is literally the only constant. Trying to stop it is kind of like trying to hold back the tide with your bare hands. And science backs this up again. All brains, again, are wired to seek patterns and predictability because it gives us a sense of control. The unknown triggers the amygdala, that part of the brain that's responsible for fear and fight or flight. So it just sends us into survival mode. But ADHD brains, we're actually no strangers to unpredictability. We thrive on innovation and we adapt to change faster because we are used to thinking outside the box when the usual patterns have not worked for us. So while others are trying to rewind the clock, we know there's no going back. The only way forward is to embrace the chaos, lean into the discomfort, and channel it into creativity and progress. The world will change whether we like it or not. The real challenge is how we choose to show up for it. And here's the good news, the really good news. This is our time. We are literally built for this. Our brains are wired for big ideas, for curiosity, for innovation, for change. That's why you're here listening to this podcast, because you recognize the opportunity to thrive in the chaos, even if you didn't know it initially. So in a world overwhelmed by chaos, people crave order, stability, clarity, and calm. They're desperate for someone to help them make sense of the noise and show them a better way forward. And that's exactly where our ADHD brains thrive. We're wired for mission-driven, service-oriented work. We thrive on helping others feel seen, safe, and supported. So while the world is spinning out in uncertainty, we bring creativity, empathy, humanity, and innovative solutions that people are just hungry for. We are good at simplifying and creating order in ways that, they're just uniquely ours. But let's be real. When the chaos gets overwhelming, even we can feel stuck. Without clarity, it's really hard to tap into our natural brilliance. If you're unsure of who you are or what you're meant to do, it can feel almost impossible to move forward, right? Especially for our brains that we're into all of the options. And that is exactly where goals need to come in. Goals are literally the antidote to chaos. They give our brains direction. They carve out a path and create the order that an ADHD brain needs to thrive. But here's the thing, those goals cannot be just handed to you. So many of us spend our lives chasing goals we didn't choose, ones handed to us by family, teachers, or society, and then we wonder why they never felt quite right. That's because they didn't come from what we value or what truly matters to us. ADHD brains, we crave autonomy. Not just because we hate being told what to do, although we do hate being told what to do, but because our motivation depends on it. When we're working towards goals that we've chosen, goals that align with our values, our energy and our focus literally skyrocket. That's why the right goals, they're not just nice to have. They're non-negotiable. Clarifying your right goals is exactly what my life's work is with my AOK system. It's not just about setting goals. It's about discovering the right goals. The goals have to be meaningful to you. When your goals come from a place of self-understanding, everything shifts. You're not just ticking off boxes on a to-do list. You're building a life that feels intentional, aligned, and purposeful. You're building a life that's actually yours, your life. When you start to truly understand yourself, everything begins to shift. Knowing who you are and what matters to you clears the noise and provides the direction. It's almost like flipping a switch from overwhelm and confusion to clarity, meaning, and purpose. You stop chasing what isn't working for you because you finally understand why it's not working, and you become clear on what actually does work. Look, if you feel lost, unsure of who you really are or what you're meant to do with your life, I can help you change your life. This isn't about fixing you because you are not broken. It's about helping you discover the brilliance that you already have and channeling it into a life that actually lights you up. If this is something that you've been looking for, I want to tell you about my patented system in my program, Your ADHD Brain is A-OK. It has transformed the lives of thousands of ADHD women. Like psychologist Dr. Katya Larina, who wrote, "Despite my extensive clinical psychology training, Tracy's system is the best, most inspiring, and most motivating I have encountered. Her system gave me the confidence to trust myself again. I'm finally building a life that fits me instead of trying to fit into something I'm not." Or Catherine Mennick, who says, "Possibly everything is different as a result of going through the A-OK system. It was utterly life-changing. I felt hope for the first time in over a decade. I've met myself for the first time ever." Or how about medical doctor Eva Sear Dart-Tochte, who shared this, "Thank you so much for helping me to see my potential and gain more confidence in making decisions about how I want to live my life. After endless sessions with psychiatrists and psychologists throughout the years, no one, and no one is in all caps, has ever come close to what this program has to offer." When you know yourself and your purpose, everything clicks. The overwhelm fades, the fear recedes, the noise quiets, and you can focus your energy on what truly matters to you. This is your chance to stop chasing someone else's version of success and start building a life that really feels like your own. Look, the world needs your creativity, your ideas, and your courage so that you can then take your gifts and help others. We need you now more than ever. This is the first time that I'm offering our A-OK Self-Study Coaching Program, which includes lifetime access to our 6-step system and 3 private 2-hour one-on-one group coaching Voxer sessions. And yes, you heard that right. This includes direct one-to-one access to me, which means you can ask all your questions and get personalized support. For more information or to join, head over to spyhappy.me/Black Friday. This offer, it's going to be open through Sunday only. I can't wait to help you step into your brilliance and create the life that you're meant to live. The link, once again, is spyhappy.me/Black Friday. Look, when we tap into our creativity and strengths, we naturally bring order to chaos. It's how we solve problems and create things the world desperately needs. Whether it's building businesses or designing apps, creating art, or inventing the next big idea, your unique gifts have the power to simplify, inspire, and transform. By embracing who you are and what you're meant to do, not only do you change your life, but you contribute to a world that needs your brilliance now more than ever. This is our time, and you have never been so needed. Happy Thanksgiving.